the open sea, a place where borders don't exist, a place where freedom reigns. But today, that freedom is on the edge of a cliff. A Russian oil tanker, Marinera, is sailing toward Europe. But this isn't just any tanker. This ship is now the epicenter of a global crisis. US forces are ready. They've tracked it across the Atlantic. But why? Because it's carrying more than oil, it's carrying tension, power, and politics. Just weeks ago, President Trump ordered a blockade on oil tankers leaving Venezuela. The US says it's enforcing sanctions. Venezuela calls it theft. Now, Marinera is caught right in the middle of that storm. This isn't just a tanker crossing the ocean. This is a battle for control, a battle for power, and a battle that could shape the future of global order. Will America seize the ship, or will Russia stand its ground? In the next few minutes, we'll break it down, the causes, the mechanisms, and the consequences of what happens next. To understand what's happening now, we need to rewind. A few weeks ago, the US set its sights on Venezuelan oil. President Trump declared a blockade, a move aimed at preventing the country from shipping its oil out of Venezuela. The goal was clear: cripple the Venezuelan government, starve its resources, and force a regime change. The US was sending a message. They would stop any tanker anywhere that carried Venezuelan crude. But here's the twist. As the world watched, the ships started changing flags. They reflagged, renamed, trying to evade detection. But the US wasn't fooled. They knew this was a game of cat and mouse. They were determined to stop it. And then came Marinera. This ship, formerly Bella 1, was now in the crosshairs. It's a Russian-flagged tanker, and its mission, unclear. But its cargo, a target. This isn't just about oil anymore. It's about control over global shipping lanes, a fight over the future of how nations can enforce their power across international waters. This isn't the first time the US has confronted Venezuela over its oil. In fact, this tension goes back years. Venezuela, once one of the world's largest oil producers, became a thorn in the side of the US government. Under Nicolas Maduro, the country shifted away from Western alliances, aligning itself with nations like Russia and Iran. For years, the US imposed sanctions, trying to cripple Venezuela's oil industry, a vital lifeline for the country. In response, Venezuela found new partners, Russia, Iran, and others who were willing to bypass US restrictions and keep the flow of oil going. And with every move, the tension escalated. In the past, oil tankers left Venezuela under the radar, moving between nations like ghosts in the night. But now, the stakes are higher. The US isn't just enforcing sanctions, they're waging a silent war. And Marinera, it's the latest battleground in this struggle. This is more than a trade dispute. This is about the shifting power dynamics of the 21st century. And the world is watching closely. Just weeks ago, US forces made their first attempt to stop the Marinera. The ship, then known as Bella 1, was believed to be carrying Iranian oil, violating US sanctions. The Coast Guard moved in, ready to seize the vessel in the Caribbean. But the ship didn't just sit idly by. It took immediate action. In a move that shocked many, Bella 1 changed course heading north, away from Venezuela. It wasn't just the course that changed. The ship's name changed too, from Bella 1 to Marinera. The reflagging wasn't just a name change, it was a strategic maneuver. Now, the ship was flying the flag of Russia, a nation that would be far harder to confront directly. As Marinera sailed toward Europe, the situation grew even more tense. The US had already shown its hand. But would they act again? This is where the first crisis began. A ship now under Russian protection, moving through waters where the US could not act as freely. The stage was set for a much larger confrontation. At first glance, it might seem like a simple case of a tanker dodging the law. But there's more to this. The Marinera is not just another ship. It's a part of a much larger system a system where sanctions are enforced not just by laws, but by global networks of money, power, and control. Behind every tanker, there's a network of ownership, logistics, and hidden financial ties. The US doesn't just track ships, it tracks these networks. The vessel's IMO number, the global identifier of every ship, is a key that unlocks a world of financial transactions and ownership structures. The ship may have changed flags, but that doesn't erase its true identity. The US knows exactly who's behind the Marinera, who controls it, and where the oil is really coming from. And this is why simply changing a name or a flag might not be enough. In the end, the system is much more complicated than it seems. And the US isn't just looking at the ship, it's looking at the whole network behind it. As the Marinera nears Europe, the stakes get even higher. The US isn't backing down. This is no longer just about intercepting a tanker. It's about sending a message to the world. The Marinera represents something larger, a challenge to US, authority over global shipping. And now we enter a critical phase. The US could act. A military operation, swift and decisive, but there's a risk. Intervening in international waters is a dangerous game. The moment the US makes a move, it risks escalating into something far bigger. Russia is watching closely, making it clear, we won't back down. The world is holding its breath. What will happen if the US makes its move? And what will be the fallout? The Marinera is more than just a ship. It's a symbol of global power dynamics, and the world is about to witness its next move. For the people aboard the Marinera, this isn't just a geopolitical game. This is about survival. The crew, they're caught in the crossfire. On one side, the US is determined to stop any illegal shipment. On the other, Russia is watching closely, ready to defend its ship. But what about the people who are just doing their jobs? For them, this is a matter of uncertainty, a matter of safety. And what about the people in Venezuela, the ones who rely on this oil as their only source of income? The people who are suffering from years of sanctions, economic collapse, and political unrest. This is the human cost of this battle for power. A battle that, in the end, will affect more than just governments. It will impact families, communities, lives. In the end, this isn't just about a tanker. It's about the people who are caught in the middle. The confrontation over the Marinera is not just a regional issue, it's a global one. This is more than a battle between the US and Venezuela. It's about the shifting dynamics of power on the world stage. The US sees its sanctions as a tool for enforcing international law. But for Russia, it's a challenge to their sovereignty, a challenge they cannot ignore. And the world is watching. This situation is testing the very principles of global order. How far can the US go in enforcing sanctions? And what will the consequences be for other countries? If the US successfully seizes the Marinera, what does that mean for global shipping lanes? What does it mean for the freedom of the seas? The geopolitical fallout will be massive. Countries will have to decide where they stand. Will they support US actions, or will they stand with Russia? This could spark a new Cold War not fought with missiles, but on the high seas. As we look ahead, there are three possible scenarios. Each one brings with it a different future for global power and international law. Scenario 1, the peaceful resolution. The Marinera sails safely to Europe. The US backs off, diplomatic channels open, and both sides find a way to avoid conflict. This would be the ideal outcome. A resolution that preserves global stability and avoids escalating tensions. Scenario 2, the standoff. The US seizes the ship. Russia responds with military force, leading to a dangerous standoff. The world watches in fear as the situation spirals toward a potential conflict. This scenario would see nations divided, the US and Russia locked in a high-stakes game with global repercussions. Scenario 3. Full-scale escalation. The US seizes the ship and Russia retaliates. Both sides push toward direct military conflict. The world is plunged into a new Cold War, fought not just with words, but with actions. The future of international order would be thrown into chaos. 3 scenarios, 3 futures, each one shaped by the choices we make today. The situation surrounding the Marinera is a critical moment in global history. It's not just about one ship. It's about the future of international relations. Will the world continue down a path where power is enforced at sea through blockades and sanctions? Or will we see a shift toward diplomacy, toward cooperation? The choices made in the coming days will determine much more than the fate of one tanker. They will set the tone for how global powers interact in the years to come. Will the US assert its dominance, enforcing its will on the world? Or will Russia, along with other nations, stand up and challenge this vision of a unipolar world? The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. This moment will define the next chapter in the battle for global control. And it all begins on the high seas. Stay tuned. The story is just beginning.